Hello everyone and welcome to Being Black in Britain, the podcast that captures the nature and the essence of the Black experience, starting with the north of England. I'm Chedza, I am your host. I'm the co-founder and director of the RARA Education Project, and I'm here at the Liverpool Podcast Studios with Emma Taonga, my business partner, co-founder of the RARA Education Project. Thank you for joining us, Emma. What does RARA stand for, Emma?
Oh, damn. Real and authentic representation.
Real and authentic representations of Africans and Caribbeans.
Yes.
What was the acronym that we had right at the beginning? Then we realised there was an organisation that did a project and it was the exact same
and it was
thing.
exactly the same.
And we were like,
we had to change. That's why we had to change the real and authentic part. No, it wasn't.
What was it?
Oh, I can't remember. It was
something like raising attainment,
Yeah.
Because it was still like education focused, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so what has been our journey so far? So June 2020,
Yes.
we pitched the proposal.
Well, we hadn't, before that, telling the story correctly.
See, I told you I'm a rubbish storyteller. Go on, you start.
It was during Black Lives Matter.
So that's May 2020.
Yeah, it was before that. And we decided to have a catch up.
Yeah.
We had a phone call.
Oh, yeah, I remember this.
I think just to see how we both were.
Yeah.
During lockdown.
Yeah.
And also everything that had been happening, or was happening at that time.
And at the time, you were doing what?
At that time, I was working as a researcher.
And then at that time, was I teaching or training to teach at that point? I was finishing my teacher training, stepping into my first new school.
Yeah. And I think, was it when you'd had a bit of a bad experience at the...
My teacher training
experience.
was a shocking shambles.
Yeah. And I think that's what got us onto the conversation initially.
So then was I just having a rant? We were both having a rant really about how life was lifing.
Yeah. It started off as just how life was lifing. And I think there was a point where we converged on recognising we were both in the educational space.
Yeah.
And what was our experiences in it at this current time.
Yeah.
Considering who we were in those spaces.
And how we were navigating that, how we were trying to survive.
Yeah. And I think it felt really cathartic. I remember that conversation, there was a lot of that's how I've been feeling.
Yeah.
Because maybe even though I think we weren't disvalidating our feelings before that, but I think it was just good having a sounding board off each other to recognise that this is a shared experience. Being Black in education.
Yeah, is a thing.
Yeah, is a thing.
Is a phenomenon.
Yeah. to bring in the research terminology.
Yeah, I think for me it was because going through my teacher training experience.
What was that like? Yeah.
It was very lonely. I think that's the word. Lonely in terms of the professional space, because every school that I stepped into, I was always the only Black person. And that's among both staff and students.
Yep.
That's not just I'm a minority. I was the minority.
How did that feel like, even just the fact that you said it was staff and students? Because that's quite a specific minority to be part of, where you're not seeing yourself in any space.
If I could try and create an analogy, a metaphor, it's like the ocean. So you have the ocean.
Where's this going? Okay.
So let's say you're flying over. What's an ocean? Think
Atlantic?
The Atlantic Ocean. Yeah. So someone's flying an aeroplane over the Atlantic Ocean and they drop a duffel bag in the Atlantic Ocean. It's, how do we find the duffel bag? It's what I'm getting at is invisibility.
Yeah.
Not seen, not heard. You're just in the ether somewhere. And what I mean by that is, if I was to try and communicate a challenge or a concern to a colleague at that time, or a senior leadership member in that time, first of all, they wouldn't see or comprehend what on earth I'm talking about, let alone acknowledge that what I'm saying is a thing. So I think it was a very quite lonely, isolating experience. But I wouldn't say lonely in terms of having zero social support, because I'd come home, I've got Sam.
Yeah.
I've got, I go online during COVID and we've got the girls. We have ourselves to kind of catch up with. So it was great to know that there were people to engage with, but stepping into the world of work was a world of its own. Do you know what I mean? So that's my answer to that.
And the fact that it's so much of our days. So it always is, but
the majority of your week and month and year is spent in that weird, isolated space. So let's carry on the story. So that's May 2020. Me and you are sharing our journeys and we're like, oh, snap, same.
Yeah. And I think we kind of came to the end of that conversation. And I don't know if it was with that conversation or maybe a week later, we both have probably been ruminating on it. And we were just like, what do we do?
Yeah.
It was a kind of like, okay, so we're experiencing this, what now?
Yeah.
And I think this is where you started.
Did I go away and
you did what you
brainstorm?
always do. You came back with 1,700 ideas and brainstorms, and you're like,
and I was like, I've got one. Right.
I've got one. And so you pitched it to me initially.
Yeah. Is that the point where you're like, good idea, but how's this going to work? Because I feel like I'm like, this is a really big idea, let's do it. And you're like, how are we going to execute this?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's funny because I feel like even thinking of that, I've been thinking about that a lot, I think there's sometimes different roles where you need somebody to have the vision, to be the visionary.
I'm the visionary.
Okay, yeah. All right. Claim yourself. No, you are. And I think there's also that person who I guess is maybe more of the operations, is trying to figure out like, what does this look like?
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe thinking about like, how do we make this idea that is really great come into happenings? So I think when we had that conversation, I think I was definitely on board with the vision of it. I was like, no, this is great. I find it like, this is exactly what we need to like work on.
Yeah.
But then I think I was just like, how are we going to do this? Like, what does this look like? Like, who do we talk to kind of get this happening?
I think what we struggled with as well in the early days is when you're creating a business, product, service, an idea, it's who does it serve?
Yeah.
And I think we struggled with that because the education space or sector is a very big space.
Yeah, like which angle are you going for? You're going from preschool, like even just ages alone.
Yeah, because if we're just serving students, what type of student, what level of education are we working with? Because at that time we were saying we want to have like a campus engagement because you were in uni, we've just stepped out of uni.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, I guess in the back of my mind, I was thinking of school.
Yeah.
Secondary education. But then we moved on.
Yeah, we did. And I think that's when we knew that we probably needed people. I think that's when we were like...
It was too big.
It was too big a vision or an idea for it to be executed with just two people.
Yeah.
And I think this is when we just started... I think this is where you kind of really start appreciating the people that you're surrounded by as well.
Yeah.
Because you start realising people's skills and assets and what they actually have that you might not be able to do by yourself, but they have the exact skill that you need. And I think we were really lucky with the people that wanted to get on board with it.
Yeah. What did we agree that we were going to specifically reach out to Black women? Because there were no guys that we reached out to. Was that on purpose?
I think it wasn't women specifically. I think we definitely wanted Black people.
Yeah,
I think we were kind of pretty...
We wanted to create a Black-led organisation because those that we were serving were Black Africans and Caribbeans.
But I think it just happened to be women that stepped forward.
And said,
yeah.
Okay.
And then I think it kind of, off the back of it, I think it worked really well as like a female-led organisation as well.
I do like the feel of that, to be honest. I like the way it is at present. But then we did establish the advisory board and we do have sort of Black male voices sort of guiding us and journeying with us, which is great. So we pitched it to the girls June 2020. And that was the beginning of starting to build a team. We didn't even have any kind of structure of what the team looked like. We didn't even know how we were going to engage in the race conversation in the education space, but we knew we wanted to do something.
Yeah.
So I guess we started exploring with different projects that allowed us to engage with the community. A strange time, 2020, in the middle of a pandemic, meant that we couldn't physically reach people. So the only access we had was the internet.
Yeah.
So we had the People's Blog, number one.
Which I think was like a really good start because I think it kind of led from finding our team.
Yeah.
And then suddenly we were like, what does our community look like? Like there's more people doing really great stuff. And I think, at least let me talk for myself, but I think the two things that I saw as kind of key themes with RARA as a service was, I think, really focusing on racial inequalities. And I think really trying to find ways to reduce that and making sure that, I think really just Black people were thriving. But I think then we decided to hone in on Black students.
Yeah.
And secondly, what was I going to say? There was a really good point I was going to make as my second point from that.
Couldn't tell you, love. I am not in your head. I can't tell you. So the first one is what you're taking away from the People's blog. The first being...
and I think the second thing was really, that was it. And the second thing was around not just kind of almost being like the racial inequality aspect of everything, but also making sure that there was a place where we were promoting like the strengths of the Black community as well. I think we saw those as a balanced setting, because I think it can be really heavy. I mean, it is heavy kind of talking about racial inequalities every day, and it can also kind of leave you feeling very defeated and also feeling like a deficit. It's like, there's a lot of things against me in this world, like there really is, and that's true. But I think being able to know that you've got a community where there's resilience, where there's creativity being produced and molded and supported is the counteract to that.
There was a need for empowerment, for encouragement, for inspiration to kind of slightly change that narrative.
So that was the People's blog.
That was the People's blog. And remember, the best thing that came out of the People's blog was that's how Devon came on board. Because she saw the first couple of posts and she was like, hi, just to let you know, I found some editorial typos, issues, errors.
You can't write, you can't read.
Can I help?
Definitely.
And that's how we found our editorial lead. And then moving on from the People's blog, we then launched the Wall of Fame.
True.
Which was exciting.
Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I can comment on that. So the Wall of Fame was, first of all, it was a really good exercise because it helped us to try and establish a picture of who was out there, what people were doing already in our community, which helped us so that we wouldn't attempt to replicate what was already happening. So I feel like it was quite a scoping exercise, really, even though it was sharing, celebrating Black stories and journeys. It was, I think we were able to learn from that. That's definitely my comment.
No, I agree. And I think there's also that sometimes when you're a startup, you kind of think that your idea is the best idea since sliced bread. And almost you're kind of repeating what's already out there. And actually you could be using your energy and resources to really be kind of honing in on a gap. And I think that allowed us to kind of be like, there is loads of great work being done out there. And actually that's a place of collaboration rather than a place of competition. And also, like just, I think making sure that we weren't repeating what's already out there and what is our like.
And it was a good networking exercise.
It was completely.
It? So
I feel like
realising that, you've got, like we've got Jen, Black Criminology Network, Black Teachers Connect. You've got Chris Weaver doing his 60-second law, bite-sized videos. And even seeing how all these organisations that we kind of connected with in 2020 are already making moves, taking strides, doing big things. It was nice to meet those people, those individuals, those founders at the time that we met them. So that was the People's blog, the Wall of Fame. And then we started our table talk stepping into 2021. How did that happen?
I loved them.
They were the best things ever during COVID. It really. Completely. Do you know what kicked it off?
I can't remember what it was.
The race report.
Was it that? Was that the thing that kind of really got us to be like, we need to talk about it? Because I was thinking
because we did an introductory table talk, which is just letting the community know that that we're here, this is who we are. And then the race report was released and everybody kicked off and everyone was just like, absolutely not. It caused absolute mayhem, especially in the academic space. Everyone was fuming, livid with
that report.
The choice of language in the report.
The whole thing.
And I think it gave us an opportunity to engage with the community and ask them, what do you think about the findings of this report? And for us, it was like a really weird thing where it's almost like we were the bridge between sort of the institution and the community, in that without having created that space, there are some people that would not have engaged with the findings and the outcomes of that report. Wouldn't even know. You know, some of our parents, family, people in the community that maybe needed to be facilitated
completely,
you know, in engaging with that. So that was great.
Yeah, no, I think you're completely right with that. I think it was just beautiful to see so many people coming forward as well. Like I was shocked at the turnout.
That engagement.
Like genuinely, I was kind of like, we're probably gonna have like 2-3 people turn up to these, have a little chat. And there were like, people really turned up for 2 hours sometimes.
And people wanted more.
Yeah, and they didn't want them to stop. And I think it felt really comforting in a way to be like, we are facilitating a space, because sometimes I know, at least for me, I think I sometimes think like, oh, what's the point of this? I think I'm always constantly being like, oh, is this the right thing? Like maybe I'm just thinking it's a problem, but maybe it's not, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think just being able to hear a whole community voice how they really felt about the research that was being done on them, because it wasn't with at all, I think just made me realise, like, going right back to our first conversation back in May, it was like, we're just not represented in academia, in education and in research, because how is a whole report coming out
and everybody fundamentally disagree
with it? But it's all meant to be the collective experiences of Black people in the UK, but everybody's looking at it like
that's not me. It's not me. It's not you. Ain't us.
Like, everybody's looking at each other like. So I think the table talks, was where I started to really see how RARA could really be a facilitator. Yeah,
because that wasn't about us expressing our political views or position on any subject. It was simply, how do you feel and how do you respond to such and such and such statements made?
Yeah, completely. And realising how empowering that is as well, because I think even just giving a space, I think, at least I'm guessing because people kind of wanted more of them, is that it was just nice to be able to have your voice heard. Yeah. Just to have your voice. It
was talking therapy.
Yeah, it was.
Talk therapy, yeah. I think it was well positioned, perfect timing, because it was in the middle of a pandemic. We're all stuck at home. Chaos is, erupting on all sides. And we just created an opportunity, a space for people to kind of gather virtually and share.
Also on the side of that, I was just going to say, just to give it, I guess, a bit of a balance, I think it was also a really big learning curve for us.
Yes.
Because at least for me, I think I had it's a classic thing, I think we all do it, but you think everybody thinks like you. Yeah. You kind of think, but this is how most people think.
It wasn't especially an echo chamber.
It wasn't at all. And as much as I'm saying a lot of people disagreed with the reports, there were some people in those table talks that really agreed with it, that thought, actually, that's exactly how I view it. That's my experience. I see that reflected. And I think it was a challenge, because I think I could see when there's a balance, isn't there? There's a balance of being a facilitator of space and making sure there isn't harmful things being said. Yeah. But also, if it's just a position of disagreement, how do you manage disagreement and conflict? Yeah. And I think that was a challenge for RARA, to see how do we manage that? Like when there's multiple views being had.
You've got 50 people in a room, 50 plus, coming up to 100 people in a room. And this proportion have said, we agree. This proportion say, we fundamentally disagree. Yeah. And you've got to allow them to engage respectfully. Yeah. Without throwing hands.
Yeah. Which I think...
Metaphorically speaking.
Metaphorically.
But yeah.
Yeah. And I think especially being it during lockdown, I don't know, even just the digital space, like you think that so many times like digital environments create echo chambers, but also kind of flatten the conversation. So even just being able to create a digital space that allowed nuance, I think that was a challenge, but also I think we did well at it.
Yeah, no, definitely. And do you know what? It informed the way that we engaged with the consulting work, because
which came after.
That was the beginning of our housekeeping every time we delivered a workshop or a training piece, because we always said, the goal or the aim of this workshop is not for us to agree. It is for us to engage, to think critically on these issues that we're about to present to you. And setting that premise, I think, allowed people to feel safe and comfortable to challenge.
To say how they felt.
And to present an alternative view if we said A and they thought B.
Yeah.
So that was great. So that led us to our consulting work. To be fair, the consulting work was kind of like brewing alongside everything else that was happening.
Yeah.
So there were some opportunities gained, some opportunities missed. And I think for us, the reason why that was an incredible journey was we did not have a clue how to sell a product or service to clients out of thin air.
Yeah, completely.
What's the process? How do you access the client? How do you present them with your product and tell them and convince them that they need and that they may benefit from your products or services? How do you keep a client and ensure that they return?
Yeah.
There were so many aspects of sort of entrepreneurship, I think, that we were just not apprised to, and we've had to learn on the job.
Completely.
We were literally just winging it.
I was absolutely never been into business, like not even an inkling of it. And I think, I don't want to say it was baptism by fire because maybe it was
basically,
it was actually. Now I think about it, it was.
It really was. Because I'm sorry, how old were we?
Nah, we were like 20, 26, 27. No, I'm really young.
20.
Actually, no, shit, that was 3 years ago.
About 25.
Yeah.
About 25.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's actually quite cute.
Yeah. So that was a really interesting learning experience. And I think looking at all the different things that RARA has attempted to do and engaged in, the consulting side is the most successful.
Yeah. How you...
Oh, actually, no.
Success?
What is success?
Ooh.
Okay.
Yeah, why did you say that?
No, I changed my statement.
Okay.
The consultant side brought in the revenue.
Yes, it did.
So it has allowed us to build and keep building to some degree, whereas the community engagement in terms of the People's Blog, the Wall of Fame, the Table Talks have been a success in learning about our community. Yeah. So everything has been a learning experience and it has given us something.
Yeah, no.
So that's my new statement.
Yeah, no, and to be fair, I think it was an important thing to go through because I think I was really weary. I was like, how are we going to make this sustainable? Like, I think I was like, how are we going to make this keep going?
Because we can't be offering our services for free forever.
Do you want to say that again? Just... Yeah, no. I mean, we will touch on, I think the consultancy will get us there.
Yeah.
But,
Can I talk about the consultancy?
Yeah, no, because I feel like you're ready to talk about it. Yeah, let's go.
I think in terms of the challenges of engaging in the consulting side of things, it has been, number one, us trying to determine the value of what we're bringing to the table.
Yeah.
And trying to convince our clients or potential clients that our products and services are of value. Yeah. Now, do you know which experience was a turning point for me? Now, I'm not going to name names, but we delivered at an event, right?
Yes.
And do you know what? I'm going to say, am I right to say the numbers right here?
Go for it.
So 2021, we delivered a workshop or presentation of a kind, and we must have charged something like $250 for this service.
Yeah.
And there was another individual who delivered. Do you remember? Who delivered at the same event.
Yeah.
And it wasn't in the same form that we did, because we created materials, learning resources, presentation, everything. We were like fully equipped, $250.
Yeah. All in.
And we put in a shift in creating that one. And then only to find that there was another guy, person, that delivered a running commentary on their thoughts on a particular...
2-3 hours? It was, oh, maybe
no,
I'm
it
exaggerating.
was for like an hour.
Yeah.
Same time frame
Yeah,
that
that was
we
it.
delivered. 2K.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, have we severely underestimated our value?
Yeah.
And at that point, the prices went up.
Yeah.
When you know what it is? For me, it was realising,
Yeah.
Nah, because the sleepless nights, Emma, when we're putting in this shift, only for somebody to say, can you give us a discount?
Yeah.
It's like, bro, do you know how many hours I put into this?
Yeah.
The research.
Yeah.
Researcher me put articles.
Yeah.
Extra reader materials, post-training.
Yeah.
And you're telling me discount.
Yeah.
Like what I'm charging you is not even covering the hours of creating this product or service for your benefit. So don't ask me. I'm going to calm down though.
No, because I'm
that's been
curious.
a challenge for me.
Yeah, because I was going to ask, like, going back to that point.
Yeah.
Why do you think we thought it was okay to charge like $250?
We didn't know any better.
Or do you think we just, like, do you know what I mean? Like,
we didn't know any better, Emma. We didn't have a point of comparison until...
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Okay, so I'm going to start.
Yeah, no, you...
So, there was a particular institution...
Yes.
That reached out to us and asked for a proposal.
Yeah.
Because
they'd had previous work with us.
Yeah, we had previously worked with them.
And we delivered and exceeded that delivery.
Exceeded their expectations.
Yeah. Just to...
They asked us to present them a business proposal because they were trying to, they were shopping for suppliers.
Yeah.
Right? They wanted a service, an organisation that was able to deliver EDI training, anti-racism training to all their staff within an 18-month period. So we presented our proposal.
Yeah.
Only to find that there were other competitors.
Yeah.
So for us, we were trying to study the market, which was a good exercise because we had to study the market.
Yeah.
What was our competition? You can finish the story for me.
No, because I feel like, well, as in the ending, or do you think, or as in the seeing the other numbers?
Yeah.
Felt like, I think, well, we had definitely underestimated our value the second time, I think.
Yeah.
And I think, you know what it is, just as well to give, like, with context, I think it really, thinking about all of this as being like a small business or a small organisation, a Black-led organisation, a female-led organisation, like I feel like we've really experienced the things that people talk about as barriers in real time.
Barriers.
Yeah.
Capital B.
I think even one thing, like you think, like there's no transparency. It was really hard to get transparency on what do you value yourself? Because I remember we had this conversation even before we charged that $250.
Yeah.
We were like, is it too much?
Yeah. We literally thought that was too much.
Like $250 for an hour.
It's only an hour.
Who's charging
it's only
the
60
$250?
minutes.
Yeah, like I know we're doing a lot, but like, and I remember us like going back and forth on it. I think at one point we were even going to go down to maybe 100.
Yeah.
And then we were like, no, like maybe, I think we managed to find stuff online that kind of gave us an estimation of consultancy prices. And I think that's how we ended up for the $250.
The other factor was the fact that it was virtual. We felt like, we're not charging them for any other expenses.
Exactly.
So maybe this figure is, standard.
Completely. And I think the same thing happened again there when we had a wider training and then we were seeing our competitors. And again, we'd kind of, we were like grands under like the median. Like, so I think that really, us figuring out our value, it's been a challenge.
It's been a journey.
Because I think also then people second guess your value as well.
Because
so you've got this
selling ourselves. We're selling ourselves too short. So we're giving people room to also question and negotiate further down.
Because I think what was interesting, and going into that second one, it still like hurts me to this day. The fact that I remember we were really proud of ourselves when we did that pitch because we were like, it's the first time we've done it. Yeah. We thought we did a really comprehensive package for them. Yeah. They seemed really impressed by it. Yeah.
And we were down to like the top 2 suppliers.
Yeah, like, and there was maybe about 10 in the running to start with. So again, it was
like, we did something right.
And then they turned around
What was the reasoning?
And there were two reasonings. Well, there was one reasoning.
So they did not choose our organisation because
they said that we lacked experience.
We lacked experience, which is fair.
Which we took,
because we did not have a track record at the time.
And I would have left it there. That would have been all right if they'd said, you know what, you don't have the experience, and maybe if you guys had a few more projects that you'd done under your belt,
we'd take you on.
And to be fair, that's like just a standard thing, isn't it? Like you need the experience to get the work, and you can't get the work until you get experience. Like,
but the second reason.
The second thing was when they turned around and they asked for the resources that we had made for the other person to use.
Can you imagine the audacity, the caucasity, the run out of rhymes, but flipping heck.
Like that's when I was like,
that was a low blow. That was a low blow.
Yeah, and it was an organisation doing it, a big public sector organisation doing it.
Because at the end of the day, it's either you want our products and services or not. You don't get to ask us to slide them under the table
for free to somebody else to deliver. And I think that's when I was like,
no, thank you.
I think that's when I started kind of realising like, okay, just thinking like this is enough money or not, it's our worth. This is also about like, what do we think we've got value for? And I think I think there was a shift in us at that point, recognising that you don't say yes to every opportunity, which was a learning curve. Because again, when you're starting a business or starting a startup, you're thinking...
You want every opportunity, you know.
You haven't got anything, you're like, anything goes. But carrying on from that.
That helps us to mature in terms of how we were to engage in the consulting side of things and how we were to engage with organisations going forward. And that's really helped. Where have we gone from there then? So while the consulting continues to build and, you know, there is now a recognition of RARA's products and services, training, consulting services, to the extent that we've not done any marketing on our consulting side. No. Everything that we've done on the side of consulting has been word of mouth only. Yeah,
which has been off, like, positive feedback from...
just somebody said... Oh, we're looking for such and such. Do you know anyone?
And they did a good job.
RARA just did a good job for us last week, so take them on.
Yeah.
To this day, Emma.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone that we have had to, any client that we have had to cry and beg.
No. The work's come to us.
So, you know what? It's been a good journey so far. So I guess the question then becomes, where do we go from here? What is RARA's next step? Because this was all sort of 2020 to this point in time, and that was kind of stepping out of the pandemic.
Yeah,
that was a weird transition out of the pandemic and then kind of stepping into physical spaces. That's been weird.
Yeah. In what way do you say it's weird? What's been the weirdness around it?
Been weird because I think I got comfortable behind a computer screen and it was very convenient. But there was a lot about sort of communication and people engagement that was missed online.
Yeah.
And now it's navigating that physically and ensuring that you're still holding your people's attention and you are still, you know, engaging these organisations well. So that was an interesting transition, but I think we've navigated that.
Yeah. And I think also in terms of, I don't know whether as well with the kind of transition from online, it's also if I'm going to be real, like the appetite.
Yes.
Like, I think there's also, again, it happens so often in organisations where like, we're really committed to EDI. We're really committed to, you know, making sure everybody has equal access.
Yeah.
And then maybe there's like a bit of time where they're like, yes, we'll put some money behind it.
Yeah, there was money for a period.
Yeah, no, there was.
From May 2020 to May 2022, organisations, government,
were willing to put money behind it.
Money into all things equality, diversity, and inclusion, and then suddenly,
and then I think suddenly maybe the agendas changed, the appetites have changed, and I think it's just. I think this is where you kind of start recognising like your own passion and vision, because it's like there's been some criticisms like in the wider context where people say EDI companies all popped up and then have all decided that because the money's no longer there, they don't want to be part of it. And I think it's about making sure that you're still committed, and I think like still finding ways to either make sure that we can survive as a business,
Yep.
but also kind of like finding opportunities where people are still dedicated and wanting changes as well.
Absolutely.
And it not just being lip service.
Absolutely, because I'm thinking now sort of May, June, July, right up till Christmas 2020, you had organisations left, right, centre putting out all kinds of statements on their websites, putting out, you know, everything in the ether to say, we are anti-racist, this is what we believe in, this is where we stand, etc., etc. But for us, I feel like RARA was intended to be a long-term commitment to this. It, you know, beyond like the shock factor post George Floyd, beyond the emotions, now that everyone's kind of, not that we've become apathetic, but the shock factor has gone. And I feel like the sense of urgency has kind of died with it. And I think, do you know what it is? For me, I think it's shown me the need for us to rethink how we engage with EDI sustainably to show how it ought to be neatly embedded into practice across the board, and to be able to show the nuances to engaging with EDI. So, for example, it's not just about anti-racism, it's anti-racism and the impact on mental health. It's anti-racism and the impact on staff and service users. It's anti-racism and emotional intelligence, because there are far too many people, Emma, that do not have the emotional intelligence to engage in triggering conversations. So I feel like there is so much more we can do with engaging, guiding people and facilitating race conversations, but in a way that shows how it might impact every aspect of our work and lives. That's what it's kind of shown me, and us being able to nurture and develop our products and services to kind of model that is what would be a more sustainable way of engaging, particularly with our consulting services. Do you know what I mean? That's what I think.
No, I completely agree. I think just the way that you said that whole statement was so succinct, that it's not just about almost just saying anti-racism is stereotypes and name calling.
I'm sick and tired of defining unconscious bias. I'm sick and tired of spelling out what is a microaggression. We should know that by now. We know that.
And start being able to recognize like it racism seeps into every aspect of society and people's lived experiences, and to kind of, what's the word? Compartmentalize people's literal lives. We'll never get to the core of things. If you're saying, oh, well, we want anti-racism to look like this in our organisation, but if it's impacting your mental health, we're not going to facilitate mental health days.
There we go.
Where do those two things align together? And I think it's maybe trying to get organisations to recognise that if you want to embed this into who you want to be as an organisation, like you almost have to like turn over every policy in your organisation to be like, oh, how does this fit into it? How does this
remain
fit
on the agenda?
Is there a streamline with it, or is it kind of this? That's the EDI department over there, and they come out in October. Like
it's not. We're gonna have an EDI training day. Once a year. Can you come back next year and then we'll reconvene? No. It's how do we do anti-racism plus, equality plus, inclusion practices plus. It's the full work. So I think, it's been a really interesting sort of journey trying to see what is the direction of our products and services in the professional services. Moving forward then.
Yes.
Drum roll, please. So I guess the next thing is what's on the agenda for RARA. So while we have the community engagement and we have our consulting side, we're having conversations about how we might develop the third strand to RARA. So yes, we've got community. Yes, we've got this consultancy. But the next stage is to establish the academy. Right. You can
What
start.
is the academy?
So the academy is our focus on the education side of things. So remember at the beginning, when we had our first conversation, May 2020, for us, it's how do we engage in the education space specifically. That's why we put RARA Education Project, because we always knew we wanted to stay in this space and make an impact in this space. So that is us engaging with both staff, students, school communities, further education institutions, higher education institutions, the full works. So that was the beginning. We always wanted to get there. So for us, this year is the year that we finally start taking steps towards building that.
And I think it's been really beautiful how it's kind of come about, because it was our initial want is to be in education, and we've kind of come full circle to now be able to kind of launch this arm, the academy. But I think the community aspect and the consultancy aspect had to be stepping stones to allow the academy to even be able to work in a way that we want it to be, because without the connections we've made within communities, as in communities knowing what we're doing, who we are, and also making sure that we're facilitating space, and also being able to have that kind of stakeholder engagement aspect of like the big players, you know, if you're trying to change stuff in a school but the head teacher is not involved at a kind of organizational level, it's going to be really hard to make those changes. So I think it gave us, I think we needed those two things to be able to almost be like the foundations to allow the academy to kind of sit.
Because we've built connections, networks within community. Then we started establishing networks across organizations. And now that we have these two networks, how do we utilize them to start building this thing here? Because there was no way that the two of us were going to make any impact in the education space by ourselves. So we needed a community, a network behind us.
Completely.
So that's exciting.
It is. And I think even with the academy, I think kind of, I don't know if this is like the next bit of the research.
Yes. Let's start with that. Let's start with that.
So I think the reason why we wanted, I think we knew that the academy was a long-term vision.
Yes.
And I think we knew that we wanted to ultimately be able to produce a service for schools.
Specifically.
Like very specifically. And I think we just realised you need to start things with research. You need to understand the problem. Like you can have your anecdotals, but like what is the big picture here?
So then we decided, okay, let's start developing a research project. But we won't spill the beans because that will be the next one. But
pending.
The research definitely will help us to, like you said, it's a scoping exercise that allows us to establish a picture of what's going on in the education space, specifically in schools. It's been a long time since we were in school. School does not look the same as when we were in school.
Nope.
So we can't go in and saying with our 20
back in my
such
day.
And such, knowledge, prior knowledge, that this is what we want to do for you lot, because they'll turn around and be like, we don't have need for that right now.
Completely.
Our high school doesn't look like what it used to look like. The demographic has changed. The same. So we don't know what the needs are. So the research is going to be a great opportunity for us to identify a need and inevitably respond.
And I think like the community aspect that we had was still maybe older people. It was
a very mature demographic that we were engaging.
It was adults who were in different jobs, careers, sectors, but given their input as a community member. And I think what I'm really excited about with the research is the voices of the young people. Like, what do students experience and face? And I think that will be a really big thing for RARA to be able to engage those young people and be like, this is also an organisation for you. This is not some adult organisation over there doing some work, but actually this is part of your world as well. Yeah,
absolutely. So to summarise then, we've gone from May 2020, me and you expressing ourselves and exchanging stories and realising that there was a need. It was us pitching an idea to our girls at the time, June 2020, and then establishing these projects, the People's Blog, the Wall of Fame, the Table Talks, developing the professional services side, and now the Academy. So let's get ready to talk about that in the next one. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. To make sure you don't miss the next one or the one after that, ensure to follow us on all podcast platforms and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you.